Hi. The truth is, a few moments ago, I was still hesitant about coming up on the stage and giving you a speech about identity, when, to be honest, a few days ago, I realized in the most abrupt, yet cathartic way, how complicated and fragile mine, or to be exact, the way our broadcasted mine was. Then I thought I could start by saying, ladies, gentlemen, and dear kids, thank you all for being here today. And it's not that I'm not thankful, on the contrary, I'm very glad that you're here. But who would I be to assume how you identify? In fact, who are you? Please take a moment to answer this question and keep your answer in mind. We'll come back to it. Who are you? Such a simple question, just 3 words. Yet, it echoed in my life without a clear answer. Growing up as a black girl with a French and Greek nationality in a predominantly white country, I lived in a paradox of identity. I was born in Ethiopia, adopted at age 3 by my French mother, and raised in Greece. On paper, I was a child of 3 cultures. In reality, I constantly wondered, who am I? Where do I come from? Where do I belong? These questions follow me like a shadow. I remember people asking, where are you from, and doubting my answer. If I said Greece or France, I'd get skeptical looks or the dreaded, no, where are you really from? To them, my dark skin told a different story than the one I lived. How could I be Greek or French when I didn't look the part? How could I be Ethiopia when I had forgotten Amharic, the language of the land that birthed me? I had the cultural pieces to claim Greece and France. I knew the traditional Greek dances by heart. I could sing the French songs my mother taught me. Yet, in the eyes of others, my appearance invalidated those truths. My looks betrayed me as if I needed to justify the very reality of who I was. I felt I had to belong somewhere. My identity needed the soil of an origin to bloom. Without a clear origin, I feared I'd be nothing, just a weed carried by the wind. This pressure to fit neatly into one box or another was suffocating. On one hand, I was desperate to claim a place and a label. On the other hand, the idea that I could be the product of multiple cultures at once seemed inconceivable to many people around me. I often wished I could simply answer, I belong nowhere and everywhere at the same time, and have that be enough. But it wasn't only about nationality. It was also about being a girl, a black girl, and that comes with its own expectations and its own burden. From a young age, I felt the unspoken tension that followed me into rooms, the stares that lasted too long, the assumptions that I was bold, loud, aggressive, or available before I'd even say a word. The hypersexualization of black girls is so deeply ingrained, so casually normalized, that sometimes you don't even notice it until you do. And when finally I did, I started asking myself, is this how I see myself, or how I've been taught to be seen? I carried that with me, in classrooms, in friendships, in relationships, in every decision about what to wear, how to speak, how to move. Even as a child, I was made to feel like a woman, not in power, but in danger. And when I tried to explore who I was, I didn't get the same freedom others had, because I wasn't starting from zero. I was starting from underneath. Trying to find your identity is hard enough. Trying to do it while constantly being misread, misunderstood, and over-sexualized, that's something else entirely. So yes, I wasn't just asking, where do I belong? I was also asking, am I safe to be myself in this body, in this skin? And still, I searched. I watched how others answer that question, who are you? And I noticed patterns. Now, I'd like you to return to the answer you gave yourself a few moments ago. Who are you? And please raise your hand if you recognize any of the following elements in your answer. We tend to define ourselves by name, our given name, a basic label we carry. Even my own name, Séblé Bailly du Bois, is a blend of cultures, an Ethiopian first name and a French last name, a story in itself. We tend to define ourselves by our gender and relationships, who we are to others. We describe ourselves through our family roles as social connections, defining who we are by who we belong to. Occupation, what we do for a living. Our jobs and titles often become stand-ins for our identity, as if our value could be summed up on a business card. hobbies and passions, what we love to do. These are the pursuits that color our lives and give us a sense of community or accomplishments. And lastly, our beliefs and values, the principles or faith that we stand for. These deeper convictions guide our choices and often shape our sense of identity and purpose. Like many people, I tried to answer that big question using these familiar touchstones. I hope that if I checked all the right boxes, I would finally understand who I was. Yet, none of these answers alone ever felt complete. Each response was like a single puzzle piece, meaningful, but not the whole picture. In my journey, I discovered that identity isn't just a name, occupation, relationship, hobby, or belief. Each was just one path to explore. I worked them all, and each taught me something about myself. First, I looked into my origins, my ethnicity, my nationality, to define me. Maybe who are you could be answered by where I come from, but my story was complicated. Born in Africa, raised in Europe, two tales in one breath. I proudly claim Greece and France, and I had facts to back it up, nationalities, language, traditions. But externally, I didn't fit the image. When people looked at me, they didn't see Greek or French. They saw a black woman full of assumptions. How can you be Greek? You don't look Greek. Or you must be from Africa, right? And we all know that Africa is a country. Imagine being told by strangers that they know who you are better than you do. Imagine people painting you wrong and dismissing your corrections. I internalized those doubts. In the mirror, I didn't see myself. I saw color, fragments of 3 different cultures, a blurry reflection. Sometimes I believed what others implied, that I was rootless. Yet, ironically, I had deeper roots than many who questioned me, just rooted in more than one place. When nationality didn't give me certainty, I turned to relationships. I thought maybe I can find myself in being a woman, a daughter, a sister, a partner. Being a black woman in a European society shaped me. Being a caring friend, a proud daughter, a partner in love, all of it gave me glimpses of who I wanted to be. Kind, supportive, empathetic. Seeing myself through the eyes of people who loved me revealed strengths I hadn't noticed. But I knew I had to be someone I could love, even alone. But I also need to be honest about one of the most painful chapters of that search. For years, I tried to fulfill my femininity, to feel seen, desired, and secure in my identity through the arms of many men, often older, often financially stable, men who honor me and my youth and my physical beauty with expensive gifts, fine dining and jewelry. For a moment, I felt chosen, safe, treasured. I let myself believe that in their affection, I had finally found a place I belonged to someone. But when they left, as they always did, they took that illusion with them. What was left behind was a deeper loneliness than before, a quiet, lonely selflessness, not in the generous sense, but in the haunting realization that I had been willing to disappear into someone else's desire, just to feel like I mattered. And when love or approval didn't offer solid ground, I turned to escape. I tried to find myself in social circles where what bonded us wasn't shared purpose or care, but substances, parties, sex, and excess. Environments where the lights were dim and the music was loud enough to drown out the question in my head. It was as if I believed that by diving headfirst into the abyss of lostness, I might somehow resurface closer to my core. That, in it didn't go completely. I'd finally stumbled upon something real. But I didn't find myself there, only versions of who I wasn't. I confused chaos for freedom. I mistook numbness for healing. And each time the high faded, I felt even further from myself. Next, I chased identity through accomplishments, education, career, passions. A job title felt like a shortcut to an answer. I'm a marketing manager. I printed it on shiny cards, thinking it would anchor me. For a while it did, but inside I felt like playing dress up. The corporate world structured my life, but muted my deeper self. Outside of work, I found running, a passion that wasn't about fitness, but about chasing a sense of self. And the rhythm of my feet against the pavement, I found clarity, strength, belonging. Through it all, I gathered pieces of myself. I learned what made me feel alive, what drained me, what I valued. I realized identity isn't found, it's built. No single label or role would even be it. The real work was stepping back to see how all of the pieces fit together. And little did I know that the catalyst for the integration would come from an unexpected leap into entrepreneurship. The turning point in my journey came when I decided to create something entirely my own. I started a leather bag brand from scratch. At first glance, this might sound like a career move rather than a soul-searching endeavor. But for me, it became the most authentic expression of self I'd ever experienced. I named my brand Bailly du Bois, which now coincidentally is my family name. I wanted my creation to carry a piece of me from the outset. This venture was deeply personal. It was my chance to bring all of my cultures, values, and talents into one piece. I poured my heritage into the designs. I honored the African part of me through bold colors and patterns that reminded me of the Ethiopian textiles and landscapes. I channeled the French aesthetic I grew up with, a love for understated elegance and minimalistic chic, into each bag's clean lines and subtle details. And I wove into the Greek influence of my upbringing, drawing inspiration from the geometry and symmetry of ancient Greek art and architecture. Each collection I designed was like a love letter to the three cultures that formed me. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to choose or hide any part of myself. Every part had a place in my work. More than that, I infused my beliefs and values into how I run my business. I care deeply about sustainability and ethical fashion, principles rooted in my belief in respecting people and the planet. I sought out eco-friendly leather and partnered with local artisans in Greece, ensuring that each product was made with integrity and heart. My choice to work with leather was not coincidental. It mirrors my own skin, something that has often sparked curiosity, judgment, shame, and otherness. But leather, like identity, is complex. It comes in countless colors, textures, and patterns. It holds stories, contradictions, and possibilities. Through entrepreneurship, I discovered an empowering truth. I own my identity. It's not given by a birthplace, a passport, or other people's opinion. It's something I can share. Emotionally, this journey was transformative. There were nights I cried from frustration. Entrepreneurship is hard. Doubt would creep in. What if this doesn't work? What if I don't belong here either? But each time I overcame a challenge, I healed a little bit of the old wound of unbelonging. In creating a brand that didn't fit neatly into one culture category, I accidentally built a world where I finally fit. My journey of self-discovery has taught me that the question, who are you, has no one-line answer. Today, if you ask me who I am, I will still tell you I'm French and Greek and Ethiopian because I am, in my own way, all of those. I tell you I'm a daughter, a sister, a friend, because those relationships have shaped my heart. I tell you I'm an entrepreneur, a creative, because through my work I've discovered my passions and missions. I'll proudly mention that I'm a runner, a dreamer, a storyteller, a believer in doing good. But most importantly, I tell you that I am myself. Someone who no longer needs permission to be different or validation to belong. If there's one thing I want to leave you with, it's this. You don't have to define yourself by other people's expectations or by a single label. It can be a multitude of things. And when the usual labels don't fit, you can create your own. So, who are you? The beauty of the question is that you are the only one who gets to ultimately answer it. And you can take your time to discover the answer. Your identity is a journey, not a destination. Mine certainly was, and still is. The difference now is that I'm not afraid of what I'll find. And I'm not afraid to stand up and say, this is me, all of me. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it inspires you to honor your own. May you find the courage to embrace every piece of your identity and the wisdom to know that you too belong everywhere and exactly where you are. Αγαπητοί εσείς που τολμάτε να είστε πάντα και ό,τι ακριβώς αισθάνεστε, δεν ξέρω αν σήμερα ήταν ομιλία ή κατάθεση καρδιάς. Παρ' όλα αυτά, θα ήθελα να σας πω πως το κοριτσάκι μέσα μου θα ήταν πάρα πολύ περήφανο και ευγνώμων για την παρουσία σας εδώ.